It was a Sunday like any other. Roast chicken on the table, mashed potatoes passed around, and my dad grumbling about how the local team blew another fourth-quarter lead. We had this tradition, these family dinners, every other Sunday, same time, same house, my parents' place just outside of Providence, Rhode Island. The house I grew up in. My wife, Marissa, always came with me, at least until recently. Lately, she had excuses. Work emergencies. Headaches. Last-minute calls from clients. But that Sunday she came. She even wore the green sweater my mom loved on her. Soft cashmere with those gold buttons. She smiled when she greeted everyone, kissed my cheek, asked if my sister's kids were coming. She laughed at my dad's awful puns. Played her part well. Too well. Looking back now, the warning signs weren't blaring alarms. They were quiet, like background static. There, but easy to ignore if you didn't want to hear them. And maybe I didn't. Maybe I clung to the version of Marissa I married 5 years ago. The one who cried during Up and drank wine straight from the bottle when we binge-watched bad reality TV. Dinner started normal enough. My sister, Natalie, made her famous spinach artichoke dip. My mom fussed over how dry the chicken was. I carved the turkey even though it was chicken, and Marissa laughed like she used to. Everything was as it should be, or seemed to be. And then her phone buzzed. It was subtle. She had it on silent, but I saw her glance at the screen. Something flickered across her face. It wasn't shock or urgency. It was restraint, like she knew something was coming and had been waiting for it. She stood up, barely touching her wine glass. "Sorry, work?" she said casually, lifting her phone. "I'll just be a minute." She walked out through the sliding glass doors into the backyard, phone pressed to her ear. She didn't look back. Nobody thought much of it. Marissa worked in PR, crisis management for high-profile clients. It wasn't unusual for her to take calls at odd hours. But something about her face stuck with me. It was guarded, like a mask had slipped, just for a second, before she caught it. Natalie caught it too. My sister leaned in, whispering across the table. "You okay?" I nodded, but my eyes were still on the door. Marissa had gone around the side of the house. She didn't want anyone to hear. "I'll be right back," Natalie said, standing. "I'm just grabbing something from my car." I didn't think anything of it. Natalie had a toddler. Grabbing things from the car came with the territory. We went on eating. My dad started telling a story about how he once outran a goose on a golf course. I half listened, eyes drifting toward the window. Still no sign of Marissa. Then Natalie came back. She was pale. Not in the dramatic, movie star faints kind of way, but in that quiet, trembling sort of pale where all the color drains out of your face because your body doesn't know whether to run or throw up. She slid into her seat without a word. Didn't touch her plate. Didn't look at anyone. Just stared across the table at me. "Natalie," I said softly, but she didn't respond. My mom was still talking, oblivious, and my dad had just gotten to the part of his goose story where he tripped over a sand trap. I leaned in again. "Hey, you okay?" She looked at me then, and her eyes were wide. "Wet. Can we talk? In private?" My heart started to thump. Something in her tone made my stomach turn. I glanced toward the backyard. Still no Marissa. We stepped into the hallway by the coat closet. The sound of laughter and clinking silverware faded behind us. "I didn't mean to spy," Natalie said quickly, her voice low and shaking. I heard her talking. I thought maybe it really was a work thing." She paused, looking at me like she wanted to take it all back. "What did you hear?" I asked, already knowing I didn't want the answer. She swallowed. She was laughing. Not like she does around us. It was different. Flirty. Soft. She said something about how she couldn't wait for next weekend. How she'd finally have the whole house to herself. My mind raced. "Next weekend, she said you were going to be out of town. Some retreat or something. That it was the perfect chance to be reckless for once." I blinked. I wasn't going out of town. No retreat. No plans. Natalie touched my arm. "I'm so sorry. I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to believe it either." But then she said his name. I stared at her. "Who?" Natalie looked away. "Aiden." The name didn't register at first. "Aiden." I ran through the list of our friends, colleagues, neighbors. Then it hit me. Aiden was her coworker. The one she claimed was gay. The one she always said was her work husband, and how I had nothing to worry about because he was safe. I felt the air go out of my lungs. "I'm so sorry," Natalie said again, her voice cracking now. "I know this isn't how you should find out. But I couldn't sit there pretending everything was fine. I couldn't watch her lie to you. Not like that. I stood there, trying to process the words, the weight of them, the truth that had been hiding in plain sight. Marissa had always been good at keeping up appearances, and I had always been too willing to believe the best in her, even when the signs were there. The new lingerie, she said, was just for herself. The late nights with no explanation. The sudden obsession with keeping her phone face down. The shift in how she kissed me. Less passion, more habit. I heard the door slide open behind us. Marissa's heels clicked softly on the tile. I straightened, heart pounding, the air thick between me and Natalie. My sister touched my arm once more before stepping back into the dining room like nothing happened. I turned to face Marissa. She smiled when she saw me. Sorry about that. Just a quick work fire. All good now. I nodded slowly, but I didn't say a word. Because I knew something was wrong. I just didn't know how wrong. Not yet. Not then. But I was about to find out. I didn't need another bite after that. I sat back down, nodding absently at whatever story my dad was telling, the words bouncing off my skull like rain on a windshield. Marissa returned to her seat like nothing had happened. She reached for her wine glass, took a slow sip, and even leaned into me a little, her hand brushing mine like it used to when we were still new. I should have pulled away, but I didn't. I just sat there, silent. Natalie, across the table, couldn't look at me anymore. She focused on her plate like she was trying to dig her way out of the evening with her fork. What struck me wasn't just the betrayal. It was how ordinary Marissa looked in that moment. Laughing with my mom about some vacation we never took. Offering to help with the dishes. She even helped clean up my dad's wine spill like she'd always done. Like she hadn't just stepped outside and whispered secrets to another man. Like she hadn't used my absence next weekend, a trip I wasn't even taking, as an invitation for someone else to slip into our home, into our bed. The thought made my skin crawl. On the drive home, she played music on her phone and sang softly to herself, like she always did when she was content. Every so often, she'd glance at me, ask if I was okay. I told her I was tired. Headache. Long day. She bought it. When we pulled into our driveway, she leaned over and kissed my cheek. Thanks for today, she murmured. Your family's really growing on me. I wanted to ask, since when? But I just nodded. She went inside. I stayed out a minute longer, staring up at the house, at the bedroom window that looked down on the driveway, the one I used to watch the stars from when we first moved in. I remembered how she used to drag me up there at midnight, claim the ceiling looked like a planetarium if we turned off all the lights and lit candles. I remembered believing her. Inside, she was already in the bathroom, humming to herself, door half closed, water running. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at my shoes. Then I called Natalie. She picked up on the second ring. I didn't tell you everything, she said before I could even ask. I swallowed. What do you mean? There was a pause, like she was bracing herself. I didn't want to hurt you more than I already did. Just tell me, Nat. She said she didn't think you suspected anything. That you were too trusting for your own good. She laughed about it. Said you were going to spend the weekend at that imaginary retreat while she blew off steam with Aiden. Her voice broke. I know how much you loved her. I hated hearing it. I closed my eyes. She said, Natalie hesitated. She said she'd been seeing him for over 6 months. That he was better at listening and didn't just stare at spreadsheets all day. That one hit me harder than I expected. Not because it was cruel, but because it felt familiar. Like something I'd feared hearing for years, but never actually did. You okay? Natalie asked softly. No, I said. But thanks for telling me. We hung up, and I just sat there for a long time. I didn't cry. Not then. I wish I had. It might have felt more human. Instead, I reached for Marissa's laptop. It wasn't locked. Not even password protected. I almost laughed. She never thought I'd look. That was the thing. She never thought I'd doubt her. Because I never had. Not once in 5 years of marriage. Not when she took girls' trips to Napa. Not when she came home late smelling like cologne that wasn't mine. Not even when she rolled away from me in bed and said she was just tired. But now I looked. And what I found? Email chains. Photos. Hotel confirmations. A whole folder labeled agency travel. Internal, filled with receipts for weekends that weren't work-related at all. The last file she opened was a PDF. 2 plane tickets. One for her. One for Aiden. Weekend getaway to a secluded B&B in Vermont. The same weekend I was supposedly going to be out of town. She planned it perfectly. Almost. I closed the laptop, and that's when the pain hit. Not like a knife, more like a weight. A slow, crushing press on my chest that made it hard to breathe. She'd made me feel small without even knowing it. Like I was just something to be managed. Background. A safe, boring husband she could keep around while she snuck out the back door with someone shinier. But here's the part one didn't expect. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was disappointed. In her. In myself. In how far we drifted without me even noticing. I kept asking myself the same question over and over. How did I not see it? And somewhere, underneath all that confusion, a thought took root. Maybe I did see it. Maybe I just didn't want to know. The next morning was eerily normal. Marissa made coffee like she always did. 2 sugars, almond milk, that little cinnamon dash on top. She even made mine without asking, which she hadn't done in months. She kissed my forehead when she handed me the mug. It almost made me hesitate. Almost. But once you hear the truth spoken aloud, once you see it typed out in emails, logged in calendar invites and hotel bookings, it becomes impossible to unknow. Even if her smile was soft, even if she looked at me the way she used to. She'd crossed the line, and she didn't even know I'd caught her. I watched her walk around the kitchen, humming, barefoot. I stared at the little scar on her ankle she got when we went hiking up in the Berkshires. Her first time in real woods. She slipped trying to take a selfie, landed in a thorn bush, cursed like a sailor, and then laughed until she cried. That version of her. She felt so far away now. Like a dream I couldn't wake back into. Later that day, while she was out running errands, I made copies of everything. Emails, receipts, plane tickets. I didn't know yet what I was going to do with them. I just knew I had to protect myself. And then I did something harder. I texted her. Dinner tonight? Just us? I miss you. She replied with a heart emoji and said she'd make reservations. She chose a little Italian place near the harbor, the kind we used to go to before life got too busy for slow meals. It was all string lights and soft jazz, and she looked beautiful under the golden glow, hair pinned back, that soft blush she knew I liked. We ordered wine. She reached for my hand across the table. I feel like we've been a little off lately, she said, her eyes earnest. Work's been so chaotic, and I've been distracted. But I've missed you. I nodded. I didn't speak. I know I've been distant, she continued. I want to make it up to you. And right then, I almost told her. I almost put the truth on the table between the breadsticks and the candle. But I didn't. I watched her lie with such sincerity, I started wondering if she even believed it herself. If she'd convinced herself she hadn't crossed a line, or that it didn't count because of how neglected she felt. Instead, I said, can we do something together this weekend? Just you and me. Her face froze for half a beat. This weekend? Yeah, I'm canceling that retreat thing. I'd rather be with you. Another pause. Her fingers tightened around her wine glass. Actually, I was thinking of taking a solo weekend, she said quickly. Spa trip. I need to recharge. You understand, right? There it was. I smiled. Of course. She relaxed. She thought she'd gotten away with it. That's the thing about liars. They rely on patterns. On your silence. On your kindness. She had no idea what was coming. When we got home, she went to bed early. Said the wine made her sleepy. I stayed up, staring out the window. My heart was beating so quietly now, it scared me. Not because I was afraid of losing her, but because I wasn't anymore. I wasn't even angry. Just empty. In the morning, before she woke, I left. I packed a small bag, nothing dramatic. I didn't leave a note. Just walked out, got in the car, and drove to my sister's place. When I knocked, Natalie opened the door with a tight, knowing expression. You ready? She asked. I nodded. Over the next week, I filed for separation. Quietly. I didn't scream. Didn't accuse. I just presented her with papers when she came home one evening to an empty house and a changed lock code. The look on her face then? That's the one I'll remember. Not rage. Not denial. Just confusion. Like she'd been the one betrayed. How long have you known? She whispered. I looked at her for a long time before answering. Long enough to stop loving the version of you that did this. She stepped forward. I didn't mean. Don't, I said calmly. I know more than you think. I know about Aiden. The hotels. The flight. All of it. She covered her mouth. I was going to end it. You already did, I said. You just didn't have the guts to tell me. The rest unfolded slowly. She cried. Begged. Promised change. And maybe a few months ago, I might have believed her. but I didn't anymore. Sometimes, betrayal isn't the moment someone cheats. It's the weeks they let you feel crazy for suspecting it. The smiles they gave while lying. The hands they held while planning to hold someone else's. A few weeks later, I found myself back at the family table. Just me, Natalie, my parents. Same roast chicken. Same dumb puns from my dad. But this time, there was no phone call. No whispers in the dark. Just laughter that felt real again. And silence that didn't hurt.